All right, welcome back to the channel. Today I have something that I personally think should be very useful for you. And as judging by the title, it is what are the pros and cons of purchasing a brand new vehicle, or, along those lines. I do get that question asked quite a bit, like, should I buy it new? Should I buy used? And so today I'm going to give you kind of a couple reasons as to why you should buy something new, but also give you cons as well, because I don't like to be the person who only gives you positives. I like to be a realist. Now, on my wrist, I do have my Citizen Titanium EcoDrive model. This is reflected by also my wonderful getup that I have going on. It's been a very stressful weekend for me, and so I've kind of just been lounging. Hence the reason I actually kind of I feel like I'm repping for U of A. You want to pay me to do advertisements for you? That could be an extra money-making thing. Anyways, so on to the wonderful questions comments, really, that I will be going through with you. Now, for this, I'm going to make a simple pros and cons T-chart, as dictated. So another thing is, I'm left-handed, so I don't profess to have really nice writing. As any of my former students would tell you, it's pretty darn ugly and they make fun of it all the time, but that's okay because we can also make fun of them for other things, but we don't because we're nice. Anyways, it's also because I'm left-handed and I erase while I'm writing. So first of all, I really like to start with the cons rather than just the pros, because I find if I only tell you the positive things first, then by the time you get to the negatives, you kind of have already forgotten everything, and you're just like yada 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 yada. And you just kind of go on autopilot and you're just like, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, okay, all right. And then you just kind of go do whatever. So first of all, cons is that I would say when you're purchasing a new vehicle, and when I say new, I mean new as in you bought it from the dealership with no miles on it, kilometers, and that it doesn't have any previous owners. So that's kind of your stipulation for what a new vehicle is. So first of all, cons, it is not good for dollar per value. It's your dollar doesn't go very far. Right? And what I mean by that is that if you were to buy, for instance, like a $30,000 vehicle, now $30,000 brand new versus $30,000 used, you can you could very easily, for instance, like a Honda Civic Si is roughly around $30,000 Canadian. You could also go and buy an older, a used M3 for $30,000, which is the superior vehicle. Now, so I don't want someone to tell me that the Honda Civic is the Si is a better vehicle. I mean, it can be if you want, but at the end of the day, and this is something that I've learned, it doesn't matter if you have a 400 or 500 wheel horsepower Honda, like a Civic, you're still driving a Civic. So, sorry, I had to say it. It's not that I don't like them, it's still a Civic. It's not an M3. Anyways, so dollar doesn't go very far, and that just means it's quite expensive. I would say another thing is that you have something called depreciation. And when I'm going to say a depreciation, and I'm going to put in brackets the initial hit, okay? Because when you purchase a vehicle, it's going to depreciate. Pretty much almost any asset that you use will depreciate, okay, over its lifetime. Pretty much every single one. Now, certain ones don't, and that would be houses. Houses, it's usually tied to land value, not the actual value of the physical building on where it's, the physical building. It's the land where that's the value and usually increases, not the physical building. But I'm not even going to talk about that because that's a human geography lesson, or you could talk to my dad, who's a realtor. Not saying that that's a plug for his business, but if you want, I could get you in contact with him. Now, so depreciation, you have that initial hit, and let us make a very small little chart just talking about that. And because some people ask, well, how does the depreciation work? And I'm assuming that most of you guys do know how it works, but for those who are a little confused, I'm going to say that this is our little chart in value, and time. So as you go through the life cycle, it's going to look like that. So something very similar to that. Now, let's say you purchased it here, and you got rid of it here, right? After said time. You've taken this amount of loss in value, right? Whereas if you purchased a used vehicle, sorry if I can, if you purchased a used vehicle and you had it to here, you've only taken like that much of a loss as opposed to that much, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's more or less what I'm saying when it comes down to that depreciation, because when a vehicle goes from being brand new, having no owners, to being used, then there's a huge depreciation hit with that. And also, I would just say that things that affect this are new model year releases or brand new like generation, like for instance, a generation refresh, or then even something like a new generation of a vehicle coming out. So that's kind of depreciation. Then there is one other one that I think that it's kind of important that not a whole lot of people talk about, but that I say it's basically in regards to it being unproven. And I'm going to put in brackets long run. Okay, so what I mean by that is that, and I'm just kind of making sure I don't want to take up too much of your time here, is that when I say it's unproven in the long run, I mean that when you go in and you purchase a vehicle brand new, and this happens more with let's say that a model came out let's say that a model came out in 2020 and it had a run to 2024. If you purchase the vehicle in 2020, then you're more or less likely going to experience more problems with that vehicle in terms of reliability and other issues that you could have to deal with, like recalls, because this is the very first year of production. You don't know what's going on. By the fourth year, they might have an inkling of what's going on. They might have fixed certain things that are apparent issues. That's why you'll have like mid-cycle refreshes. Now, a very good example of this was the Honda Del Sol. So in the first couple of years of the Honda Del Sol, they had really, really bad leaking targa top roofs. Okay, the seals would leak. So when it came to, I believe it was 96 and 97, the last few years that they were selling the Del Sol, they actually went back and redesigned the seals and made them a little bit better and sealed better. So the problem is if you bought in that, initial kind of run, is that you are going to be subject to a lot of issues. Now, sometimes manufacturers will not even issue recalls for it. They'll just extend the warranty out, or they'll be like, sucks to suck, you deal with that. Okay, so but usually your latter years, if a model's been out for some time, will usually be a little bit better. But it's, whereas like for instance, if you were to look at a vehicle that's already like 10 years old, you would already know the track record of it. You would be like, oh, these are the issues. These are the potential issues. So now I'm gonna switch over to the pros, because you want to know what's good with this. And I would say when you're financing a vehicle, like if you're paying cash, that's besides the point. But if you're financing a vehicle, you get access to way better rates. Okay, so you get access to better rates. You can get stuff as low as like 0.9%. Now, that's only if you have, and like there's that really thing, OAC, meaning if you have good credit. If you have really bad credit, I personally think that you shouldn't be purchasing a vehicle. And if you do really need to purchase a vehicle, you should purchase something that is within your means. So now, you get access to way better rates, and never underestimate how much you would actually pay in interest. Okay, never underestimate. Interest is like the secret killer, because you're basically you can't afford it, so you're paying to use someone else's money. Okay, and that can be really damaging. Okay, so the last thing that I would say, or sorry, not the last thing, is that you have a longer warranty period. And usually manufacturer warranties are 5 years slash 100K. Usually. Sometimes they're 3 years, 60K, but usually they are at a longer warranty. And sometimes, well, for instance, if you bought a car over here when it was like 4 or 5 years, they would be outside of warranty. You'd either have to purchase you also have access to purchasing things like extended warranties and other things that you wouldn't have if you were buying a used vehicle. So you have access to longer warranty period and slash extended warranty. That isn't to say that you can't purchase a third-party warranty, but usually those third-party warranties aren't as good as the new ones. Now, other things that you would want to take a look at is that to make vehicles cheaper, you can look into whatever rebates or incentives are offered for the manufacturer or through the government. So for instance, there's usually always rebates going on with trucks and other vehicles, because it's basically the manufacturer being like, you should buy this car, so we'll give you a $5,000 rebate. Be careful about the rebates, because sometimes they're like, and always do your homework and figure out if there is a rebate, because sometimes dealerships are shady and they won't tell you that there is a rebate, and then they'll basically, they're selling it to you when they should have given it to you, which can be a few $1,000s, and no one likes to be gypped. So always make sure there's a rebate applicable. There's also certain things, for instance, if you're buying a green technology vehicle, for instance, like a hybrid or an electric vehicle, there's government incentives that could also help you with that. And I would say probably the last one, and also I would say probably a more subjective one, is that there's no prior history. Okay, so when I say there's no prior history, is you are in charge of creating the history for the vehicle. You don't have to worry about how the vehicle was driven, because you're the only driver. You don't have to worry if someone smoked in the vehicle, because if you smoke in the vehicle, that's your prerogative, but you are the only person. You create that history. You're not having it left up to someone else. You don't care how someone else drove the car, if that makes sense. But yeah, so these are basically just a couple of quick pros and cons on why you would go with a new vehicle. I will be doing the same thing for a used vehicle in the next video. And if there's something that I wasn't covered, YouTube only lets me upload so long of videos, and you only want to hear my voice for so long. But anyways, yeah, so this is the list that I have. Very briefly kind of went up and over with you guys here. I'll kind of throw this up here so you guys can take a look at it again. But yeah, so that's it. And if you have any other questions, please do comment or get in contact with me. You can either message me on to YouTube or also on Instagram. Stay in touch that way. But if you like the content, please comment, subscribe, and if you do, please recommend this to anybody that is actually thinking about purchasing a vehicle. I have no problem with offering advice on certain things. But yeah, anyways, hopefully you learned something from this, because I'm all about educating and teaching people. And yeah, so take care. And until next time, stay out of trouble.